Thanks for joining us. I'm Alex Bell, and you already know this is To the Point. And we first want to start off with respect, because at this point, respect is what striking student workers at the University of California say they are simply asking for. An estimated 48,000 academic workers walked off the job at 10 campuses today, making this the largest strike so far of 2022 and the largest higher education strike in U.S. history, for that matter of fact. So it is a sign of the times, capping off 2 years of increasing labor union activity across the country. So in tonight's main point, our Van 2 breaks down the resurgence.
Walking off the job after more than a year of negotiations.
We want respect at this point. We want to be paid for the work that we do.
Emily Weintraub is among tens of thousands of postdoctoral scholars, academic researchers, and student employees with the University of California demanding a livable wage and child care benefits.
We want cost of living adjustments. I mean, inflation has been horrendous this past year.
Academic workers on the picket line say they do more than half of the research and teaching on campuses, yet account for only 1% of the UC system's budget. They're demanding 3%. Union leaders say some workers make as little as $24,000 a year.
I think the university does not value us right now.
The UC system is the third largest employer in California, and this strike marks the largest strike in the country since 2019.
What it signals is that at all levels of employment classifications, at all levels of wages, that workers are frustrated.
Labor experts say we're in the midst of a resurgence in labor unions. Public support for labor unions is at an all-time high of 71% since 1965, according to a recent Gallup poll. Union election petitions also increased 58% in the first 3 quarters of 2022. Risa Lieberwitz, Cornell University School of Industrial and Labor Relations, says the pandemic is a large driver. Some people lost their jobs, others were deemed essential but faced unsafe working conditions with low wages.
That opened people's eyes to the realities that they were facing every day.
Compound that with low unemployment and high inflation.
The businesses are raking in profits, but the workers aren't sharing in that. And so the lack of fairness around the distribution of wealth and profits is also something that we're face to face with.
And Van is joining me now. Van, what is curious is that when you look at the overall number of union members, it's at a record level low of about 10%. And in 1983, it was 20%.
Yeah, Alex, that is correct. And labor experts, though, say you can't deny the resurgence of the activity, especially in industries that historically haven't been involved greatly in unionization. So think about Starbucks and Amazon this year. Now higher education with the UC system. Now, Professor Lieberwitz, which you just heard from, predicts that this increase in support and organizing will increase the number of unionized workers across the country.
And to bring it back home, what has UC Davis said about its negotiations with the academic workers that are on strike?
So new this evening, Alex, the university says it believes a third-party mediator may be the best path forward as negotiations continued through the weekend. So they pitched that to the labor unions. Now, the Office of the President noted that the UC's offer for part-time and full-time academic employees would be among the top of the pay scale, among the top research universities, public, and more comparable to private universities such as Harvard, MIT, and USC. So the office wrote this statement saying, in part, these employees make meaningful contributions to the university's teaching and research mission in both part-time and full-time roles, and we believe our offers of fair pay, quality, health, and family-friendly benefits, among other proposals, are fair, reasonable, and responsive to the union's concerns.
All right, Van, thank you. And this strike could impact classes, research, and finals in the UC system. So, of course, we'll be keeping an eye on what happens next. All right, a child under the age of 5 in California just passed away from the flu and RSV. The state is not revealing any other information, but says it is a stark reminder that respiratory viruses can be deadly. And we are in for a busy winter with RSV, and then, of course, the flu and COVID-19 still spreading. So while the news often shows images of kids with RSV, I do want to remind everyone that this virus doesn't only affect children. So take a look at this. The virus is known to be more serious in infants and kids under 2 years old, but it can also have a very serious impact on adults 65 and older and adults with compromised immune systems. So the state asks that everyone should be up to date on their COVID and flu vaccines, of course, washing your hands very often and avoid close contact with people, all the things that we've been doing since the pandemic. So tonight we have new information on the man accused of ramming an SUV into a Natomas store, sending 5 people to the hospital, one of those people in critical condition. It happened on Saturday night at the Ross Dress for Less out in Natomas, and Becca Habegger has been following this story and researched the suspect's criminal history today. And I do want to warn you that the security video you're about to watch, it is very difficult to see.
Security cameras inside the store captured the moment the driver of an SUV plowed through the front of Ross Dress for Less in Natoma Saturday night, sending 5 people to the hospital, one with critical injuries, and the driver sent to jail.
It was a very chaotic scene there, and we feel for everyone involved in that incident.
44-year-old Brant Felicina is the suspect. He's now in the Sacramento County Jail on a felony DUI charge, misdemeanor possession of narcotics, and violation of parole. We wanted to learn more about this violation of parole, so we checked out his criminal record. Felicina has convictions dating back to 1995 when he served time in prison for second-degree robbery and vehicle theft. His convictions over the years include robbery, attempted robbery, and possession of a firearm by a felon. The California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation tells ABC 10 Felicina was released on parole 4 times over the years, and 3 of those times parole was revoked and he landed back behind bars. He was most recently released to parole supervision in May. In August, he was charged with being in possession of meth and drug paraphernalia. He was just days away from his hearing in that case when this happened, and now he's facing charges stemming from the Ross crash as well.
I was mad as if it was my family.
Teray Sanders owns the company hired to clean up the glass and debris left over from the crash.
My heart goes out to the people that actually were injured, and hopefully they have a speedy recovery.
We asked Sacramento police for an update on the status of the 5 victims, but police had no new information for us as of Monday afternoon. We also asked Ross Corporate for a statement and have not yet heard back.
Very scary. Of course, we'll continue to follow this as it develops. All right, the country is ready to make post-election plans, but everyone's still waiting on, you guessed it, California. After the break, why control of the House could come down to the Golden State. We'll have more coming up. All righty, it's been nearly 1 week since the midterm elections, and ballots are still being counted, and the balance of power in the U.S. House is still so close, and control of the House might now come down to what happens right here in California. So we have been watching 3 very hot local races in the new Congressional District 3, which includes large parts of Nevada, Placer, and El Dorado counties. Republican Kevin Kiley is leading Kermit Jones so far with 53% of the vote. And then in Congressional District 9, which includes most of San Joaquin County, Democrat Josh Harder remains in the lead over Tom Patty with 56% of the vote so far. And then over in Congressional District 13, Republican John Duarte is just 84 votes ahead of Adam Gray, with a lot of the votes still to be counted. The district includes areas of Patterson, Newman, Madera, and Merced. And if it seems unusual for the rest of the country to be waiting on California to have an idea of what the future will look like, political analysts say, yeah, it is unusual.
Usually you've got a pretty good sense as to what the House majority is going to be without California. But this time the national count is legitimately so close that the outcome, ends up hinging on a number of these California races.
Remember, every vote counts. And also remember, there are still hundreds of thousands of votes that still need to be counted. So results, in theory, could look a little bit different in the weeks to come. But the political analysts that we spoke with say it's likely that Republicans will take the House with a slim majority. So tomorrow, former President Trump is expected to announce his run for another presidential term. And tonight, former Vice President Mike Pence is breaking with the president. He is sitting down with ABC World News Tonight anchor David Muir. They are talking about former President Trump and the events that unfolded during the January 6th Capitol attack. The former VP is calling the former president's actions that day, quote, reckless. Tune in tonight at 10 for a special edition of 2020, Breaking with the President. All right, today marks World Diabetes Day. So when we come back, We're going to be talking about why a treatment that could make the disease less invasive, it's been just really slow to catch on. We'll have details coming up. So a little known treatment is changing the lives of people living with diabetes. And on this World Diabetes Day, we're exploring an inhalable form of insulin that's called Afrezza. It's the only drug of its kind, and it's been on the market for more than 7 years. But patients and doctors alike tell us it just doesn't have the name recognition. Becca Habegger has the story.
I was diagnosed in 1983. I was 13 years old. That puts me at 38 years living with type 1 diabetes.
Anthony Hightower, his partner Letty Santana,
I was diagnosed in 1999.
and their friend Matt Macedo
I came late to the party. I got diagnosed at 25.
all have type 1 diabetes.
It could be a very lonely disease if you don't have that support.
They're part of a Sacramento-based group called Duck Diabetes, which Anthony started years ago as a team name for a cycling event.
And now, we have this community of diabetics here locally in Sacramento. And so we've hosted roller skating parties, baseball games.
They tell other diabetics about a medicine that has changed their lives. But to understand how it works, it's important to know this.
Diabetes is a condition where your pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin.
Dr. Adila Ansari of Mercy Medical Group explains we all need insulin to turn blood sugar or glucose into energy that fuels our bodies.
It is important for your blood sugar to be at certain range, and if patients have diabetes, it results in much higher level of blood sugar, which leads to in long run more complication affecting your eyes, your kidneys, nerves, and high risk of strokes and heart disease.
There are several types of diabetes, and we won't get into the specific differences here, but generally, type 1 patients have to put insulin into their body every day, and some type 2 patients do as well. The most common way by far is through liquid insulin that can be taken by injection or by using a pump, which involves an insulin dispenser connected to a small tube placed just under the skin. People who use insulin to control their blood sugar levels take extra around a meal or snack. That's because the food will raise their blood sugar level and they need the insulin to help lower it back to a safe range. But as Anthony explains, figuring out the timing and the dosage is complicated.
An injection for me takes about 45 minutes to an hour to start working, which is very difficult. If you're going out to eat, you don't know what you're going to pick, but yet you still have to guess and count your carbs and figure out what you're going to have, take your insulin based on those calculations, and then 45 minutes to an hour later, if your food's not ready, you could be in trouble. So now what a lot of people are doing is they're just taking their injections once their food is there or right when they order it. But at that point, now you're dealing with these high blood sugars because you've already eaten, but you've only taken your insulin just before you've eaten. So now your blood sugars are sky high for 45 minutes to an hour or so before your insulin starts to kick in. And then the traditional insulins continue to work for 3 to 5 hours. So now your food's out of your body, your insulin's still working, and you're dropping below that low level. So now you're feeling these post-meal hypoglycemic reactions. Hypoglycemic reactions are when your blood sugar drops below a certain levels and gives you this feeling of like you're about to die.
But Matt, Anthony, and Letty, all of whom used liquid insulin for years, say that's not a problem for them anymore. They now use an insulin delivery method that's inhaled. It's the only one on the market, and it's been available for more than 7 years. It's called Afrezza.
Having the liquid insulin was always a struggle, and then getting the medication just right. Going from that to Afrezza has just been absolutely life-changing. It's been so freeing.
I would say it's absolutely life-changing.
It's changed my life as far as my diabetes is concerned.
Instead of having to calculate the exact amount of liquid insulin to take based on a guess of the amount of carbs in a meal, Afrezza comes in just 3 different doses.
We don't even count carbs. I don't count carbs anymore. I just see a meal and see small, medium, large, and dose accordingly.
That kind of just gives you a range. As long as you're within this range, you're fine.
But Afrezza is a whole new way of thinking about insulin.
The biggest benefit, they say, is how quickly Afrezza gets to work and then gets out of their system.
You have a noticeable effect between 10 and 12 minutes. We can see it because we all wear a thing called a continuous glucose monitor, and that goes in every 5-minute increments. So after about 3 dots or 15 minutes after you've inhaled, you'll see a noticeable effect where if you're starting to trend up, it starts to level out and then starts to go back down to the level that you want it to be.
Liquid insulin is 4 hours out of your system. Afrezza is out in 90 minutes.
The beauty of Afrezza is the speed in and speed out. It's not necessarily that's an inhaled. To me, that's a bonus. Now I actually take it when my meal is delivered to me. So While my food is now digesting it out of my system, my blood sugar is starting to level out because Afrezza is leveling out.
I definitely can tell you it's a game changer for patients.
Dr. Ansari says Afrezza is faster acting because of how the inhaled insulin is absorbed into the bloodstream through the lungs.
The majority of the injectable insulin are delivered through capillary system, which takes longer time to really peak and stay longer in your system. But when you look at the Afrezza, it really delivers the insulin directly into the arterial blood system. So it goes quickly into taking effect very fast as opposed to the injectable.
You're Dippin' Dots ice cream. So like those freeze little pellets, we freeze dry Afrezza nitrogen in a monomeric form. So as soon as you inhale in your lungs, it releases the technology into your blood. So there's no waste. There's no time waiting for it to travel through your tissue.
Michael Castagna is CEO of Mankind, the company that makes Afrezza. He says there are about 3,000 doctors throughout the U.S. who prescribe Afrezza and about 10,000 patients taking it, a fraction of 1% of the people who could potentially benefit.
There's about 5 million people who live with diabetes on insulin every day for their mealtime control.
So I asked him.
This has been on the market for some 7 years. People who use it call it life-changing. Why isn't it more widely used and known about?
I would say two main things. I've worked on this for 5 years now. So first was the company didn't have a lot of money. So therefore we couldn't raise awareness.
This is no large company. Although Mankind has several drugs in the pipeline, Afrezza was its first on the market with a second one that launched just this summer.
I'd say the number one thing is the majority of people do not know it exists. And then the second one is doctors, because they were trained on injectable insulin. They know injectable insulin. We didn't train the US doctors on inhaled insulin. Doctors just don't believe it sometimes, and it's very frustrating. I tell them, get your own clinical experience. Why wait?
In fact, I was just telling you while watching this, I'll be very honest, did not know a lot about diabetes and like just the mathematics behind calculating what you need to take, what you should take in your meal. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I have friends and family members with diabetes, but I'm not the one calculating that insulin for them, So I too learned a lot from, Tony, Letty, and Matt. And we talked in the stages of developing this story. We don't want it to feel like a commercial, and really that's not the intention. I mean, I came across this story really organically. Tony and Letty are my neighbors. Shout out to Tony and Letty. At Halloween, they were going, and they're like, don't worry, it's not drugs or anything.
You're like, what is it?
Yeah, it is a drug, actually. It's insulin. Yeah. And I said, what? And so they were telling me about it. And once we learned that it was really, there was not a lot of name recognition and it changed their lives, we thought, well, and again, it's the only one of its kind on the market. Why not use this platform to let folks know about it? If someone has diabetes and they're struggling to, manage it, maybe this is something that could help them out.
An alternative, yeah. And we know other insulin can be pricey. What about Afrezza?
Yeah, Afrezza is also, that's a challenge for this drug as well. The CEO does say there are some options for customers. He asks people just who are interested to reach out.
And the CDC has said, diabetes is growing, especially among kids. Are they eligible to take Afrezza as well?
They are not right now. Afrezza has a pediatric version in the pipeline, but it's not quite ready to hit the market. They're also hoping to create a version for gestational diabetes for women who are pregnant and get diabetes. So that too is in the works.
So of course we'll be following this. We have to.
Yeah.
All right, Becca, thank you. Let's take a look outside at our Gilmore backyard here. You guessed it. Cold weather sticking around. Here's a quick look outside. Sacramento seeing 49, Stockton at 53, Modesto 50, Tahoe very chilly at 27. Here's a quick check of your 10-day forecast. Don't forget Thanksgiving right around the corner. Make sure you're getting prepared for all the family to come in. Well, before we go tonight, we took some time on Friday to honor those who have served our country for Veterans Day, and we did get a couple more photos that I would like to share because any day is a good day to honor vets, in my opinion. So David sent us in this picture of his family friend and U.S. Army veteran, Bobby McKim. You can see him there with his children. Love this picture. Bobby, just want to say thank you so much for your service. We also have David. He sent in this photo of his uncle, U.S. Army veteran, and the man that he was actually named after, David Madden. So David gave his life while serving in the Vietnam War. David, thank you for your service and your sacrifice. And then we have Ken from Placerville. He sent in this photo of his father, Captain Harry D. Greenwood Jr. The U.S. Army vet served in World War II, and we thank you for your service. Now, one of the greatest parts of doing this show is we get to highlight some of the really amazing people in our community. So keep writing in, keep sending pictures, because We can't do this without you. Have a great night. See you tomorrow. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.